as I went through my depression, it felt like I was drowning. I shared with him, it just felt like I was drowning, and thousands of people got to watch me drown every day. And it's just like, I couldn't come out. I couldn't come out. What helped you come out?
This program is designed to help you walk through the traumas. And I didn't even realize how many traumas I had experienced, because what we do as men, you get up and you go on.
Hello, everybody. I'm Davidmann, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Love Your Mind. Man to Man, Love Your Mind. You know, this is a platform that I created to help brothers talk about their mental health, which is something that we never share. We don't too often find safe spaces and safe platforms to share. So I just wanted to create a space that we can share. And I'm going to tell you guys, lean in. This is a no judgment zone. You can share here. What happens here stays here. And, you know, this is a place where, you know, I want to create that. I just want to let men know that it's okay, that it's not okay. So we're going to jump right in. First of all, I want to thank the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council for making this platform possible. Thank you for all that you guys do in the Black community for helping us brothers get our stuff together. But I wanted to bring on a guest. Now, I'm going to tell y'all, today, you can notice I'm a little giddy. I'm a little nervous. I'm excited because my guest today is just iconic. You know, we're going to entitle today's show, The Underdog, From Trauma to Triumph. And who better help us talk about that than, just in case you've been under a rock, you got to know this guy, and he needs no introduction. But out of respect, I'm going to give him an introduction. He's an icon. He's a father, first of all. He's a writer, director, producer, he's an entrepreneur. This guy is just my brother, Tyler Perry.
Hey,
welcome to the platform, man.
I'm proud of you for doing this, man. This is really good. I
Thank
remember
you.
when you called and told me that you wanted to do this, I thought, wow, that is really, not only is it needed, but bold, brave, and my prayers are with you on this because it's a journey that we all need.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for having me.
And you know, for me, even doing this was like, do I want to share this kind of topic with the world?
Yeah.
And I was thinking, like, who better to help me do this and spread this word? Somebody that I know has gone through this journey.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And you. Can I say we both have grown in that?
Oh yeah, because you were, 20-something years ago, man. You and Tam was always amazing, but you were just like,
Did you say we or you?
I said you.
We.
You, okay, we.
We.
Yeah, no, we have grown. For sure.
But today's topic is talking about underdogs. Mm-hmm. And you describe underdogs as people that are expected to fail. And can I just say what you've done for underdogs like me, like Tam, like Cassie, like Van, because you know, in Hollywood's eyes, people like us,
and me.
And you, first of all.
Yeah.
I mean, what makes you want to take on making people like us win?
You know what's important to me, man? Just making sure that people know that they're seen. This building this studio, holding this space has been extremely, extremely difficult. It's come with a lot of pressures, and it comes with a lot. But the thing that makes me keep going, because at this point, there's no reason for me to keep doing this other than looking at people like you and Tam and Cassie LeMan, like the cast of Sisters, the cast of The Oval, the cast of all of these shows, of Ruthless, people who never had a shot are getting
Right.
chances, not only to be on television, but to make lots of money and
Movies.
live well, you know,
Yeah.
and build careers. So at this point, that is what it's about for me, to just continue to do it for others, because I was at a point in my own life where I was just like, how much longer you want to do this? In 15 years, I will be 70 years old. And that sounds like
I'm older than you.
I know,
though.
man. I know, but I'm just saying that 15 years will go by like that.
Yeah.
Time after, I think it's after 40 or when you have a kid, time goes by like that.
So fast.
Yeah, and you miss so much of it. So
And
I
I
want to
think-
start enjoying it.
I think Hollywood even failed to see, and I don't even know if you thought about it, but even people who have had a shot,
Yeah.
who people think that their shot is over.
Yeah.
Because you've revitalized
Yeah.
a lot of careers.
Yeah, and you know what it is though? There's a difficulty in having the person that comes along who has never done anything because they think that this is supposed to be. Like you're supposed to have this. And the ones who have been in the business for a long time who are out in Hollywood, there's a very different mentality of, oh, this is miraculous what's happening here. This
Yeah.
is so much bigger than just this man. This, what we're seeing is something that we haven't seen in any other place. So when new people come in, I don't want them to have this expectation of when they leave this studio and get to Hollywood, it's going to be the same thing.
No.
So speaking of mental health, you got to be really strong coming into this business.
Yeah.
You need to know who you are.
This business can make you have some mental problems.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Some mental health challenges.
That's right.
And so how do you deal with that? I mean, because I know early on, dealing with, in your career, you were told, you know, oh, the church folk, they'll never come.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Chitlin circuit, there'll never be anything. You took that and turned it into a contract with seemed like everybody on the planet.
Yeah, I don't believe in the noise, though. I don't believe the noise. I don't pay attention to it. I don't lean into it.
Okay. I'm laughing because when you say you don't believe the noise, y'all, he don't believe the noise.
No.
I'm going to tell you, I called him one day in a panic. He almost cussed me out. Matter of fact, he probably did.
I probably did.
So I called him, Tyler, you know, the new show is on, and man, and the critics are eating us alive. And he gives me this,
Yeah.
you worried about the wrong damn thing.
Yeah, we're about the wrong damn thing. Yeah.
And I was like, why? He said, man, don't listen to that mess. That's just noise.
Yeah.
Let's do what we do,
Right.
how we do it,
Right.
and just sit back.
Right.
And I just hung up the phone like, this dude is not shaking.
No.
You
no.
just don't care.
No, it's not that. It's because I know what I'm doing. Like when you've been on the road with me, you see the audience. You know the people that we're talking to.
Right.
You've seen them all over this country from end to end. You know the language that we speak.
Yeah.
So to have some critic write a review that pans it, I'm like, okay, you don't get it. It's not for you.
They don't
and that's
get
okay. And that's okay. But how many episodes of Meet the Browns were there? You see what I'm saying?
150.
Exactly.
Over. 'Cause we shot,
Yes, and House of Pain is going on to almost 400 episodes now.
400 million episodes.
because I know us. So you
Yeah.
can't, first of all, you have to be able to drown out the noise. And these algorithms, I'm telling you, man, if someone doesn't act, we're going to see more and more people in mental health crisis because of the algorithms on all of the social media. You click on one thing and that thing will feed that to you all the time.
Right.
There's a reason it's called a feed. When you feed your soul gets stronger.
Right.
If you feed it the right thing, right? There's a reason it's called a feed. If you feed your body, it gets stronger. If you don't, you starve yourself and die. The feed that they're constantly giving us, whatever negative thing you see, when you see 10,000 more of those ads, that is affecting your mind.
Yeah.
And people don't want to acknowledge that, man, but it's real. So no, I don't believe in that noise.
Now,
I don't get into it.
Now, speaking of this, you know, we watch Maxine's Baby.
Yeah.
I couldn't watch that too long because I've just kind of seen the journey.
Yeah, you were there.
And it made me cry. It literally made me cry because I seen him and I see you now. I seen and knowing your story now, I get it.
Yeah.
Can I just say, now I get it?
Now you get it?
Now I get you.
Yeah.
I get it now.
Now it all you get
Well,
it.
I'm just saying, because I see, even you and I early on, we kind of bumped, but we didn't realize it wasn't you, it wasn't me, it was our trauma.
Yeah, exactly
It was
right.
our trauma from just childhood.
Yeah.
How did you deal with now that I looked at it, I was like, he went to hell and back.
For a long time, the gift that God gave me was, and I still have it, to be able to disassociate. That's the thing that helped me get through all the trauma. Whatever was happening, I could leave. Be it the sexual abuse from the man in the church or the rape from the woman down the street, I could leave my mind and be somewhere else so that I could survive it. Okay, so to have that ability at a time that I thought was very, very difficult and hard, which it was to move through, to have that ability help me survive. And a lot of children can do that. But sometimes people disassociate and they break and they're not able to come back, or they split into different personalities. God gave me the grace to be able to come back into it. And I did not understand how much that affected me up until maybe 10 years ago, when I realized I was disassociating from everything. Anytime anything got too heightened for me, I was out in my mind. I'd be sitting here talking to you and gone.
Really?
Yes, I could. If it was something that was painful and hard to move through, I could float right through it because I wasn't in it. And if it was joy and happiness, and I could be there but not be in it, which recently I learned how to come down in it, and I learned what was happening.
How to live in the moment.
How to come down from that. Yeah, because it was such a natural reaction to go away and go into myself to protect myself.
You and I were talking the other day, and we both, I don't know, I stumbled on it. Like, we were talking about, you get so used to living in chaos mentally that you're almost waiting for it. And when peace comes,
you don't recognize it.
You don't recognize it and don't know how to just live in it.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was the opposite, because I grew up in the chaos.
Right.
And anytime chaos showed up, I was out. I don't deal with it. I don't like it. I'm not confrontational. I'm not into the foolishness. I'm not into the mess. My house, my space, everything is, if you are fortunate enough to be allowed into my private spaces, you are in a very sacred, safe place for me, right? So I don't allow myself to, not fall into that chaos. I can't do it. But to understand peace is something else. Right. So that's what you were talking about, understanding the piece of it.
And just for me, I know even for me, when I was dealing with my mental health issues, it was, now that I'm here in this space, it's almost like battered wife syndrome or an abuse syndrome. It's like I'm waiting for the chaos. And I just keep telling myself, live in the peace.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of times we don't simply live in the peace.
Well, that's hard to do, because as a child, what happened to me as a child, I was always heightened because there was so much trauma. There were so many landmines. There were so many things that could go wrong. So in my brain, like, I recently was tested for autism and all these other things to see if I was on the spectrum, because of the way that I think and see. The person I was talking to said, let's test you for all of this stuff. And I thought maybe I'm on the spectrum because the way I see things, the way I hear things, the way I write. I mean, it's all like pulling things it's crazy. You've seen it. How I can write a script in 2 weeks, or how I direct so quickly. But what we found was, when I was talking to this person, they were explaining to me that the trauma that I experienced as a child made my entire nervous system, that vagus nerve and everything inside of you, so heightened that I was always tense. So I always was looking for the landmine all the time. So I had to calculate to survive. It's like a deer drinking water, looking up every 5 seconds. When you're a child and you grow up in that kind of chaos, that's the way your brain is wired. So it's all of those things. So it takes me back to the scripture in the Bible that says, all things work together for your good. I'm watching that part of my life, how horrible and tragic it was, help me to build this. So it's very, very important that we recognize that that even though there could have been major trauma and horrible, awful things could have happened, it can work for your good if you can work through it.
Right. And I guess for me, in dealing with, it just felt like, I shared with people, as I went through my depression, it felt like I was drowning. I shared with them, it just felt like I was drowning, and thousands of people got to watch me drown every day. And it's just like, I couldn't come out. I couldn't come out. What helped you come out?
Here's what I never had depression. What happened to me at 50, and holding all of this up to, if you look at Netflix and Disney and all of these people, those are conglomerates with shareholders and, thousands of people invested. I'm one man running a 330-acre studio where the light bill is always over $100,000 and the water bill is always $50,000, and where there is almost a $200 million payroll with actors and everybody every year. One man holding the weight and the pressure of that. And then constantly having to drown out the noise and the foolishness. And constantly, I was just in prayer all the time. Okay, God, how do I move through this? Because when you've been given a seat like this, it is so important that you honor it. Like, I'm not one of those people that can sleep when I do things wrong. I honor it. I honor everybody who comes through this door. I honor every actor and every actress, because if somebody comes to you with their dreams in their hands and you take advantage of that, that is evil. So I was feeling the weight of all of that, because when you carry it right and honor it, it can isolate you. It can put you in the back and on your heels, because you know that you can't go out and hang out and have a good time and have parties. You can't do any of that stuff because you're honoring it.
Right.
And I found myself sitting at 50 going, what happened to your life? Wow. You've been honoring it so much and holding the weight of this thing, man. That thing got so heavy on me that I said, I've got to get some help.
I know I was reading somewhere you were saying that when your mom passed away.
That was, yeah.
That's when you started drinking heavily. Is that how you, because see, I would say some people, mask it by drinking. Some people do it with drugs. Mm-hmm. I did mine by, hey, Tyler, can we do another play? Yes. Hey, Tyler, can we do some episodes? Yeah. So was yours primarily just drinking?
If my mother, when she died, if I didn't have contracts, if I didn't have obligations that were years out that I had to do, my life would have been very different right now, because I started drinking a lot. Like, I'll have a drink now and then, but I was drinking a lot because I've never felt that kind of pain. And also understanding that feeling of I am alone.
That was
for
your
the first time in my life. Yeah, I am by myself on this planet. I will never have that kind of love again. I will never know that kind of love again. And I am by myself holding all of this stuff up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll tell you what I did, which nobody knows. This summer, for the first time, there was an intensive therapy session in Arizona that I went to. I spent 7 days, 10 hours a day with therapists. For the first time, I'm sitting with therapists and having these conversations. First of all, I was so exhausted, I thought, what else are you going to do? Because I was about to...
And you sounded, it's like, I call you, hey, bro. Hey.
Yeah, man.
I'm done.
I was exhausted. I was ready to walk away from it all. I was just tired of holding everything and holding everybody up. But going into this intensive 7 days a week, 10 hours a day with all of these different therapists. And before you go in, you do these hundreds of pages of questionnaires.
Really?
So they have a very clear idea of who you are mentally when you walk in the door. So you can't bullshit them. You can't fool them at all. When you walk in the door, they know who you are.
They know who you are, yeah.
So
they double know who you are. It's like,
yeah. And in that, this program is designed to help you walk through the traumas. And I didn't even realize how many traumas I had experienced, because what we do as men, you get up and you go on.
Yeah.
And we don't realize that every time we just get up and go on, we have a trauma. It's like we've taken a 50-pound weight and put it in our soul.
Our trauma center.
To keep walking. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we're talking about the whole day. How did faith play into that? Because, we both grew up in the church.
Yeah.
And the reason I said people say you crazy, because that's the first thing we think back from, especially come from our generation.
Yeah.
You're just crazy, and not knowing, like, look, there's something to this. There's something going on. We just didn't have a name for it.
One of the therapists there was telling me that some of the hardest people to help are Christians, because they think, I'm just going to pray it away. I'm going to pray it away. God's going to heal me. Everything's going to be, if I just talk to Jesus. And listen, I believe that is true.
I definitely believe.
I believe that is true. And I also believe, it doesn't have to be a but, I also believe that you can get help for mental health things. Because here's something that blew my mind when I was doing this thing called EMDR. It's where you're just holding on to these probes. It's nothing weird or crazy, no drugs. You're just holding on to these probes, and they're in your hand, one left, one right. Just you feel a little pulse, because from what I understand in the EMDR, when you go into REM sleep, that's when your eyes dart and your body starts to heal yourself. It's a scientific thing, from what I understand. Could be wrong, but this is what I from what I understand. So what happens when you have trauma? These neural paths in your brain are storing things that are affecting you your whole life. And until you can understand how to move those things in the part of the brain where they're supposed to be through this EMDR. I know this is deep, man.
No, I've never heard of it.
When they were explaining this to me, I was like, oh Lord, what is this? you know me.
Yes.
And I'm the only black person up in the whole place. Like, who these crazy white people? What is happening?
Probably take you to a scene from Get Out.
Right, exactly right. But understanding the science of it, and immediately after having those sessions, I felt everything lifting. I felt everything fall into perspective. My prayer and my praise was different because it was coming from a place of understanding what was happening. Do you understand?
I definitely understand. Because I know for me, it was just that. Coming definitely from a strict religious background. It's just, oh, your faith ain't strong enough. Your faith is wavering. It's like, no, I mean, I've had faith to, believe other stuff, but it's just, when my heart is hurting, I see the heart physician, and it's just something happening to me mentally that I can't shake. And I needed help. And so it was like, I need to see a therapist. And not many people are willing, especially us, because we grew up from that era, and what's happened in this house, stay in this house and don't say nothing to nobody. I ain't finna sit down and let them white folk tell me nothing.
I have a friend who's 80 years old, and who we were talking about the things that she had been through, and she was just like, what's the sense in sitting in it? Which I used to believe too. Oh, it happened, move on. But what I found by sitting in the moment and understanding what it did to you and how it affected you can help to free you. That is the reason to do it, especially if you can find the right therapist, so that you can get to the understanding of what happened.
The core of it.
Yeah.
So, this show is not only a space for us to talk about it, but I wanted to give some resources and some places that people can go. And so I wanted to bring in therapists. And of course, when I thought about, I'm about to sit down and talk with Mr. Perry, Tyler Perry, I know how he is. Like, bring no therapist. I don't want to sit up talking about it. So I had to find somebody that was a round-the-way brother, somebody that could sit down, that has experienced some of the same stuff as us. So I wanted to find a real brother. This guy is somebody that I trust to sit down and be able to have a conversation with us that's not just shooting us statistics and stuff. So his name is Dr. Cory. We're going to bring Dr. Cory in. This is Dr. Cory. He's a licensed marriage and family therapist.
Pleasure to meet you.
Who primarily serves the black community. He's also a sports and entertainment life coach. He's a psychotherapist for the Detroit Pistons. He also authors the book, How Am I Doing? 40 Conversations to Have with Yourself. So you've been kind of listening to Dr. Yeager, Tyler Perry.
Yes. Good to meet you.
Do you know EMDR?
I know parts of EMDR. That was not my specialty. I didn't really go deep into it. I'm more of a narrative therapist. I want to hear the story. Right? I want to hear the content-laden story, and I'm searching for patterns in your story. Anytime we tell stories, a pattern will emerge. There's a pattern that's already emerging in this conversation around the idea of trauma, all these aspects. And then once that pattern emerges, I get to point it out like, hey, Tyler, did you realize that every time you talked about this was connected? Right? So connecting dots as a narrative therapist.
Why do you think it's so important that brothers like us, and because, we had it extra hard, I think, to come out with our story, because we make the world laugh. You freaking Madea. I'm Mr. Brown. We make the world laugh. That's why for me, I dealt with it for a year. I don't even think you didn't even know. Finally, one day I was in my backyard. I called you and I was crying, and I told you you were silent because you couldn't believe. I don't think you could even believe, like, man, you've been masking this really good.
But you know, that's a lot of men who hold everything until one day it breaks.
Yeah.
And what I learned also is that there, as you're growing up and you're holding all of this stuff and you're holding all of this stuff and you're holding it and you're holding it and you're holding it, one day, that day comes when it's like, you know what, I can't do this anymore.
Yes.
It explodes.
It mounts up. And to your point, both of your points, we have been taught as men from young boys, shut up, don't be talking about that, you don't need to do that, stop crying, get over here, I'm gonna give you something to cry about. We all heard those things. Then you become a man and all the responsibilities of fatherhood, manhood are on your shoulders. And that little boy continues to say, I ain't supposed to cry. I'm not supposed to be talking about none of this. So just shut up and take it. That doesn't go away. Yeah. We hold that deeply. I heard Tyler say, little pieces are inputted into your soul. Yeah, then over 40, 50 years of that inputting into the soul is so heavy laden that we get to a point of saying, I don't know how I'm gonna survive this. I don't know what to do. And I ain't supposed to go be talking to nobody.
Right. I think our minds kind of, I don't know if our mind play tricks on us, but we've learned. I know my daughter, Tiffany, told me so well, you hid it from us so well. Now you're exposed. It's time to get some help. It's because I got so good. How are you? I'm good. And that's
also though, the saying, when somebody asks how are you, most people don't really care.
That's
right. So you like, why would I share this with you? You don't care, and there's nothing you can do about it. So let me just hold it, right? And there's another part of this that I think is very important. That since we're talking about black men and race here, that we clearly understand that there was a study done with Holocaust survivors in their DNA, and how the trauma of was passed through their DNA to the next generation. So exactly. There are generations of trauma that has been passed down to us as our mothers are carrying us in their wombs. So it's so important to know what was happening when with your mom and what happened with her and your dad and what was happening then or your grandpa. So when you get all of that lineage, you understand what's not only the stock that you're made of, but what you came through, but also the trauma that may have been infused.
Yeah.
So Tyler, you hit something I think is extremely important. This idea of epigenetics is really, you have all these genes in this DNA, and then you have things that are on top of that DNA that is passed on. So if we go back in this country 400 years of trauma as black and brown folks, if you look at that transmission, that intergenerational transmission of trauma, all too often what we'll do is call some of that culture. They whoop the kids. Oh, that's just what they do. Them black folks, they whoop the kids. Yeah. But where did we learn that? We learned that through the process of slavery. So we'll call it culture, but it's the remnants of trauma that we have handed off from generation to generation. And we haven't had the ability, because what I realized is my family, we were trying to just make sure that there was food on the table. I ain't got time to be thinking about trauma and them generational, all that stuff. No. First of all, we'll call it generational curses, right? There's new words for it. But what then, when we get to this point in our lives, in this point in society, where we may be able to take a breath, that we may be able to say, okay, so what is this? Yeah. What has happened to us? Too often we look at our community and say we are a mess, but we cannot forget. A good friend of mine, Resma, talks about not only did something happen, but something happened on us from a long way ago, that it ain't just that we're crazy. Yeah. We're not just crazy. We come from kings and queens. We did not just arrive as slaves. We arrived as kings and queens and philosophers that they turned into slaves.
But nobody goes back and talk to them. I know when you first started doing the plays, you were dealing with subjects that nobody was dealing with. Not wide open like that. You know, you would probably have these conversations in the living room, but to put them on stage
molestation,
and share molestation,
rape, trauma, sex addictions, all those things we were talking about. And it was always the thing that gave me the most joy in doing those live shows was that last 30 minutes when I could sit there and just be the therapist for a lot of us who had never had therapy. So when Medea's sitting in that chair talking wisdoms and about where we've come from, that was the thing that made me comfortable enough to keep going with it. So yeah,
and those kind of conversations, you could see people and you would read the comments. Thank you. Now I can tell my story. I can. So, Doctor, you were talking about the generational things that happen. It's racial battle fatigue.
Yes, sir.
Talk to us about that.
So over time, any of us that are black and brown realize and recognize that there's a fatigue from racial issues over time. I got a doctorate, and I remember working on my doctorate, and they hated me. I was the first black male to go through that program in 22 years. So they didn't have no black man, and I was older. I got my doctorate in my 40s. So I was speaking my piece. I understood. I had been a therapist, licensed for a number of years, but they didn't like the way I approached it and talked about race. So I remember walking up at the University of Minnesota to the campus, and I would walk way around so I didn't even have to see the professors. Like, I didn't even want to engage with them. I didn't want to see them at all because they were going to take a piece. I always felt like they were taking a piece of my soul every time I walked in that space. So the fatigue that comes along with this issue of race that we deal with consistently eats away at us. And that fatigue can turn in and manifest itself into all kinds of things. High blood pressure, cortisol releasing in our systems, all of these things that we know as black and brown folks that we deal with.
That we have, a lot of us.
There's roots in that, right? I think all too often we don't recognize that there's roots to, if a dandelion keeps growing in the yard, you can mow the yard, and what comes back? The dandelion. Why? It keeps coming back because the root system has not been impacted. So this idea that we have this fatigue, and Dr. William Smith from the University of Utah came up with this idea, is something that we all innately know. We feel it, but no one has coined it. No one's talked or discussed it. Tyler, I just think about your story. And one of the things that I've learned over a number of years in this therapy realm is that healing can only come from within. And I think that we don't connect the dots of the difference in treatment and healing. Treatment is me as a therapist sitting down to talk with you. That's treatment. Healing must be from within. So if I cut my arm wide open, it's gashed open, I go to the doctor, what are they gonna do? They're gonna clean it out, they're gonna put an ointment in, they're gonna sew it up. All treatment, all extremely important. But then the body goes about the moments of healing that wound. So if we have struggles, we have to realize that we can heal ourselves. We can, it can happen. We can do it. We need that assistance in treatment to aid us in the process. And too often we've been told, stay away from that treatment. We don't want them folks in here. Don't you be, as you said,
especially therapists. Like I refuse to go to therapy. I'm not going to no therapy. How did you, knowing your story, were you able to manage through all that? Because when I seen you today, I said, man, you look refreshed.
Yeah, I'm good.
How did you manage through all that?
Listen, I'm better than I've ever been. You talk about healing coming from within. I learned so much in these intensive. One was learning to trust your ability to heal, which was powerful to me because it's just like I'm feeling like my back is against the wall. But every time I've gone through something, I've healed. Wow. And I have to trust that ability to heal. And as you were talking about race, I'm sitting here with all these therapists, and they're all white therapists. I'm the only black man there. And as I'm talking to them, race would come up, and I would just go on to the next thing. And they all made notes. And then they made me sit in it. Hold on a minute, Tyler. Let's talk about how you feel about the racism. I didn't even realize how fully it was affecting me. Because as a black man, you just get up and go.
Keep doing it.
You don't sit in it and like, okay, well, that's the way it is. Because I refuse to be one of those black men who is like, the hell with the system, everybody kill everybody, everybody hate white people. I don't want that energy in my soul, right? I understand that this whole playing field is going to be tilted away from me. I've got to figure out how to make it work for me, which I have. And even still, because I was talking to them about how watching people who are my same age who have not had any level near the success that I've had as far as track record of successes, who are white, get 10 times more than what I have and 20 more opportunities just because of who they are.
Yeah. You better believe it.
So the frustration for me came in. I've been able to build all of this stuff and understand that there's racism, not bow down and get in it, but keep building a table around it, right? Wow. So having this moment where these people, these white people who were really good people, made me realize how wrong that was. Made me sit in. I knew it was wrong, but as a black man, you just keep going.
Just keep.
But they made me sit in it, made me realize it, and the acknowledgement of it was powerful for me. To acknowledge how wrong it's been was powerful.
But I do believe that acknowledgement is the cornerstone of that movement forward.
Yes.
If I can't acknowledge something, I can't move on it.
Yeah,
I can't change any of those things.
That's right.
So us realizing that the root, pattern in the conversation, root of any transformation is trial and tribulation. Usually it's trial and tribulation, and then I transformed. Right. So how do we do that? How do we acknowledge the trial and tribulation that we have, and then begin the process? Because it don't happen overnight. It's a process.
How do we do that? And I'm just asking a question for some of my friends. How do we do that when we give and we give? Because the big issue with me is I gave, and it's just like I couldn't give enough. Like I know with you, you can't give enough.
You know what? You know what I found? Because I was sitting in this room with these people, and all of these people were wondering, why are you here? Because there was someone over there who had an addiction. There was someone over there who's had another kind of addiction. Why are you here? And I'm sitting there myself going, what? Yeah, why? This doesn't make sense to be here talking to these people. Well, through the course of this time, my time there, what was evident that I immediately pushed back on. It's like, Tyler, you're a caregiver. I was like, yes, I know. And you also lean in on gratitude. I'm like, yes, I know. I'm grateful for everything. But Tyler, what you're doing is you're using both of those things as a crutch. Though you're using the two of those things like these people are using their addictions. Because you are not allowing yourself to feel the pain of what you're going through, because you'd rather care for someone else than look at yourself. You'd rather be so thankful and so grateful that you don't even acknowledge the shit that comes along with the pain.
Wow.
Yeah.
See, so this is that connected to what you just talked about earlier. This disassociation. That's a version of it. That's a minute version of that process.
Yeah.
You just told me something.
Yeah.
Because that's my addiction. I gave, so I'm telling you, it's like, man, it's just, I can't give enough.
But all of that was about not looking in.
That's right. Avoidance.
Because yes, if I could just give it, if I take care of you, I take care of you. I don't have to look at taking care of myself.
That's right.
So the beauty I learned, and this thing really shook me up for a minute, because when I realized it and really got it, I stopped doing for everybody. I was like, well, that can't be right either.
There's a middle ground somewhere.
Everybody fired.
But the feeling of the knowledge of understanding what I was doing made a change. Okay, Tyler, you're doing that for them. Then what are you doing for yourself? Let me go over here and take care of myself. And if I want to do that, then I'm going to do that for you. If I don't, I'm not. And I'm still going to be okay with it. Yeah.
And that's, for me, the shame of not, the embarrassment of doing. I was getting ready to buy some land, and I called around everybody, and I was just like, I can't buy this, I called him, and he always give me these good, wise answers. I say, Tyler, I'm thinking about buying this land. What the hell are you waiting for?
Right, what's the problem?
That's what he told me.
What the problem is?
Because you're doing it for everybody else. What about yourself?
Yeah. And one of your quotes, I want to read it. You use up everything you got to give people everything they want. It's Nina Simone. That was a quote that you said, one of your favorite quotes.
Yeah, she said you'll use everything you got trying to give everybody what they want.
Everybody what they want.
So is that not the idea of us continuously as black men pouring from our glass that only has a little bit, but I'm continuously pouring everyone else's glass, and their glass damn near full, and I'm pouring to them, and I have nothing in my glass. How about the idea of let me fill my glass, and anything left, y'all can have it all, but let my glass be full. So we think about this idea, David, you talk about what can we do? These resources, are there resources? I see resources as twofold. I think you can go to spaces and get resource. I think it's very important. But there's also resources within that we have to tap into and learn to utilize. So just the connection of what we're doing here, the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council, they came up with this website, loveyourmindtoday.org.
Right.
A lot of great resources there. And when I was kind of perusing through those resources, I was reminded of, why not engage and think about the resources like understanding your sleep pattern? How am I sleeping? It's an indicator of your mental wellness, If you're not sleeping right, if you're falling asleep easy but waking up can't fall back asleep, those are indicators. What about the self-talk, how we talk to ourselves? We have about 6,000 to 7,000 thoughts that go through our mind every day. The vast majority, if we paid attention to them, are negative. Most people are negative. So that negative self-talk is a tape that I'm playing in my head that's always negative. It keeps playing. Corey, you don't get that job. Corey, you're going to stumble when you get in front of Tyler. Your words ain't going to be right. All of these things that we tell ourselves.
Well, that's because he has an intimidating presence.
That's what it is.
When he walk in the room.
That's what it is. Okay.
No.
And he's not that way at all.
No, you
Tyler,
talk about the negative thoughts. No, that's important. Yeah, stay on that. Stay on that.
So those negative thoughts that we have, what we can do in terms of self-talk. And I wrote in my book, How Am I Doing? The first question of the book is, who knows you best? So one of the things that we struggle with is we won't look at that man in the mirror. We won't look at that man. We'll avoid the mirror because that man knows everything. There's things that when I look in the mirror, I know I have not told people because I don't want them to know that part of me. My mama knows a lot of me as she's sitting in my basement right now in hospice and I'm watching my mama leave this earth. She knows the vast majority of me, but there's things I haven't told her. My wife knows things, but there's things I haven't told her. So how can we take that negative conversation that we've had and catch it and say, all right, that's negative. Does it serve me? If the answer is no, can I flip that into something more positive?
So are you saying that the negative conversations are coming because of things that are unsaid or because of things that are you holding as your own truth?
I think it's a both and.
Okay.
I think
is
it's
it the subliminal things that we kind of...
So all these negative things that we see, and then we tell ourselves negative stories. There was a philosopher, an existentialist named Jean-Paul Sartre. And Sartre submitted an idea called bad faith, saying that we move through this world telling ourselves multiple lies. Man, I can't stop working at that job because that's the only way I pay these bills. You know that's a lie. There are other jobs that you could get that could pay those bills. But I've told myself the story that I can't leave that job. So what we do is we continuously tell ourselves these negative stories and untruths. So can we flip that? Yes, that's a resource that's within, but it's a process. I gotta tap into me and have some truth telling in that with that man in the mirror.
That's what I was about to say, because I think one of the hardest people to ever face in my life was me.
Yes.
When you just standing there butt naked with your thoughts and that was difficult. Because it's just like you're trying to get you straight before you get everybody else straight. For me, that was...
honestly, for me, that was never scary. That was seeing myself getting close, looking in. I lean in to everything. I lean into every part of me. I lean in. That wasn't scary. I think the scariest part was understanding that once I did, what did I see? And was it what I thought? And when I was able to lean fully in and also have, again, all that questionnaire, they had a clear psychological evaluation of who I was. So as I'm in these moments, I'm being reaffirmed that I am who I think I am. Which was so powerful to me, especially in this business when you're constantly bombarded with negativity and lies and half-truths and all of this. So to have a group of professionals look at me and go through my psychological evaluation and reaffirm that the good I feel inside of me is true, right? The mistakes that I've made are true. They don't define me. They don't make me less than. They make me human. And I had set up this thing, as most men do, fathers who are carrying everybody. You set up this thing where you've got to be the hero, right?
Yeah.
So what happens when the hero is flawed or breaks or cracks or it's too much or walks away or is not able to be there? So being able to face all of that and realize, yes, I am all of those things and flawed too, was powerful for me.
I think my fear is that I'm not going to be the hero anymore. My fear was I'm not going to be the hero anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I prided myself.
And you know what that says to me?
What?
That says I'm not going to be loved.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's that.
I'm unworthy.
Yeah. That says to me, I'm not going to be loved. If I don't do this, if I don't do that, I'm not going to be loved. And the freedom of getting to the place where you go, like, if I don't do it and you don't like it and you don't love me, bye.
So I'm reminded, this every morning without fail, maybe the last 5 years, for the rest of my life, I wake up and I listen to a song. And the song is Lovely Day. Every morning I listen to it, and the song, Withers was writing the song likely about someone else. If I look at you, I know I'm gonna have a lovely day. But I flipped that to say, if I can look at myself and say, I'm cool with that cat, the day's gonna be cool. Whatever happens, gonna be cool because I am good with that man and he's flawed. Don't get it twisted that he ain't flawed. I'm flawed at my very core.
We all are,
So I know that if I'm cool with me, even in that flawed existence, it's gonna be all right. And anyone else that cosigns that is cool, but I don't need that cosign. So that, Tyler, as you said it, I'm thinking about the word affirmation. Like, how are we as Black men affirmed? This world seeks to do whatever the opposite of affirmation is what this world seeks to do with us that look like this.
And I think that goes with something we talked about the other day. Even as we thrive, why do we hold on to the survival mentality?
Think about that. So we can move into a space where because I think there's different categories of survival and thriving. We can move in where we're thriving financially, we're thriving this category relationally, but our mindset may be rooted way back in that old school mind idea of survival. Right? So I had to think about that. Like, I've moved into a thriving aspect in my work, but I'm telling my wife, well, how much you gonna spend on that? Well, I still am surviving. My mindset is still surviving, and I don't have to do that. So how can we talk to ourselves and one another about, all right, I think I'm thriving now in a way that I haven't before, or my family has never, but my mindset is still survival. How do we move that category? And I don't think you can move anything, like we've said, without first being aware. You have to be aware of it before you can even move. Because if you're not aware of it at a level below consciousness, we'll start to do things, all right, that just become natural for us.
You know, and I think having platforms and places and spaces like this to share stuff like this definitely helps. I not only wanted to talk about the traumas of it, I wanted to talk about the triumph of it. You know, you and your success in just beating everything, all the odds that you beat. What are some of the things that you've done to put you in this place of peace? Because you ain't letting nobody go. I've heard you. I ain't nobody changing my peace.
No, I beat the hell out of everything around me to keep my peace. But no, to speak to that affirming, like, that's something I've done my entire life. No matter what was being said to me, no matter what people were trying to say about me, I affirmed first of all, what was your intention? Was your intention good? Yes. Was that pure? Yes. Okay. So you started out the right way. So your intention is right. So what you're doing is right. Keep going. Keep going in that. You are good enough. You are strong enough. You are powerful enough. Look at what you've done. Look at what you've created. Look, even in the beginning was like, I know this will work. I feel that in my soul. I've always been a person that reaffirms myself. I couldn't have built this without doing that, because when you don't have any other cheerleaders, if you can't cheer for yourself from inside, I don't know how you're going to be able to make it. So that is something that I've done from day one. And if you look at all of the successes that they don't report on, or all of the subscribers that these streamers are getting just because I'm on the platform, that they don't want to acknowledge or equate to what I'm doing, I know it. And that helps reaffirm that businessman in me going, you're doing the right thing. Stay on this path. When I come in through these gates and I look at these young people who have not had a chance, there are people here who've come out of prison who couldn't get jobs. I'm watching them buy houses. I'm watching them get married, have kids, and calling on me for prayer. Hey, we're working on this. I'm trying to do this. And by me believing, by me being able to affirm myself, it's affirming them. They're coming in here dreaming bigger than I've ever seen in my life. And I love it.
And I'm a witness to that.
No, I can go in on your life. Just looking at where you and Tam have come from and where you are now. And what is so beautiful about it almost makes me want to cry, just thinking about the amount of peace that you found and what you've had to go through to get it. So to be at this place now, David, and to say, I found this thing and I want to share it with all of you, that is what I'm here for. That is why I'm in this seat now, is because here's what I found. Come, let me show you. Now, but be careful, because Jesus had 12. One was a devil, his disciples. I got thousands of people around here. I know everybody's not applauding and pushing, but the ones that are the ones you focus on.
Is that not? So in my book, I write about us seeking to understand our genius. Everyone has a genius, but I don't think that we discover it. I didn't discover my genius until I was probably late in my 30s, early 40s. And I would say that my genius is relationship building, right? I'm just genuine. If I can be around you for a little period of time, I walk away. Many people will say, man, something about him I like. I like him, something about him. That's my genius. And I figured that out a little later in life. So recognizing that affirming within, that is a genius that we have all got to try. How do we spread that idea of I can affirm within? I don't have, because what we seek is for affirmation from out here. Yeah. And out here is wavering. Out here is backbiting. Yeah. Right?
Out there is a comment on social media that does not know you.
Yeah. Right.
But what you said, what I also love what you said about starting with it's going to be a lovely day. Like when I'm going through something and you talk about getting to triumph, everything I'm listening to and putting in my spirit is positive. Yes. The music, the song. So you got to be careful with what's on in the car. What's going? What are you feeling those days? Because I have friends who love to dance and I mean they're bopping to the beat. I'm like, but do you hear what they're saying?
The feed.
What are they feeding
What's
you?
The feed?
What are they feeding you? So I have a playlist of back in the day of songs like "Be Optimistic" by Sounds of Blackness and all those things that help me keep moving through the darkest time.
As we close, I just wanted to, just some practical things, for brothers. I kind of know one of yours. Just some practical things that you do to find peace of mind. Because I can tell you mine is I bought a tractor. And I'm sitting my country behind out on the tractor, mowing and just going. What are some practical things that you do to just kind of get your peace of mind?
Besides building model airplanes and flying them, I build model airplanes, I fly them. I have going into Wyoming, into the mountains, and going to the Bahamas and in the water, and just completely getting away from everything that feels like work, and literally unplugging from all the machines and the things, the phones and things that tax me, so that I can, number one, hear from God and hear from myself and check in. How are you? How are you feeling? How did that make you feel? How'd you feel when you moved through that? How did this, really be honest, leaning in, being honest with myself about how I feel about anything at that moment, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's really important.
And just so y'all know, he passed some of that stuff on to me, because when I would ask him, say, who says you only have to have one place? You actually told me that. You need a place where you can go different places to get away.
Because I don't know how much money y'all making on the other side, but I know what the checks I write. I'm like, what am I missing? What am I missing?
Yeah, he was like,
what am I
why
missing?
not? And that was something you told me. It was like, look, enjoy yourself, indulge, because I actually had a guilt for not, wanting to go and do that stuff. Because, well, what is everybody going to think?
But that's also not feeling worthy.
Right.
And that guilt is self-imposed. We put that on ourselves. So for me, I would say the two things that I do is read and write. So I'm always reading, especially about ideas and ways that I can be helpful in my community, right? Because a lot of people have written things. I want to know some of that info. And then I want to say, how does that help me and the folks that look like me as a therapist? So reading is one of the things that takes me away, and it also prepares me to be supportive. The other one is writing. I have multiple journals, and I know Tyler talks about a bit about that. I have a journal that's just for me to get my stuff out. The research tells us 2 ways to get out things that are building up in us: talk to people and write. Right? That's what the research says. So I love to write. And then I have journals that are for my sons whenever it is my time to leave, that I'm writing to them almost every day. Boy, we talked earlier, you didn't even realize that Daddy was thinking, right? So then when it's time for me to go, they'll be opening, and I've got so many books throughout my house that I've written as I'm reading. It reminds me of one of my sons. I'll write little notes, and I've said to each of my boys, when it's time for Pops to go, don't throw any books away. Look through it. You're going to see my writing, and your name is going to be in it. It's going to tell you, and it's dated. It's going to tell you what I was thinking about you when that date occurred.
And I think you once spoke about being a father kind of changed your whole
everything. Yeah. Because also if you are a father and you've had trauma, be careful as your child is growing up, because what I found is that at certain ages that your child is growing up, you could be triggered by things that happen to you at those ages. So you have to be mindful of that. If you find yourself going through some stuff when your child hits a certain age and something happened to you at that same age, be mindful of that, because those triggers are really, really real. And I had a few when I wasn't even aware of it until, again, making all of these connections.
So how do you say that? I oftentimes think of, especially when my babies were a little younger, I would say like he's 12. And I would always think, all right, so what were my dad and mom when I was his age? Yeah. What were they saying? What do I remember them saying or doing? Trying to almost slow my life down to say, man, that was a chaotic time. Dad was dying. Yeah. Mom was stressed. Right. And I was struggling, and nobody was talking to me about anything. So I'm attempting to flip that, right? My sons, I grew up in a household like many of us did, that no one said I love you. I never heard it. I felt love from my grandparents and my mom and dad, but no one said it. So as my wife and I got married, one of the things that we promised is we're gonna flood these boys with I love yous. So growing up, when they were 10, 12 years old, they would be leaving to go to the kitchen from one room to the other and say, I love you. You just go into the kitchen, boy, but they say that's what they know. So now next generation, when they have babies, that's all they know.
So some of the resources, I think you were sharing some of the resources earlier. One of the resources, could you share with the audience?
So when we think about this culmination, this collaboration between the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council, and this loveyourmindtoday.org website, I think that idea, there's a ton of great resources that we can tap into and maybe learn from in that space. So I think those are a number of spaces. I think Tyler said something earlier that's really important. Finding the right therapist is critically important. And finding a good therapist is almost like taste testing, right? If you taste it and it ain't good, don't keep eating it. So if I go to a therapist and they ain't vibing, I'm not vibing, hey man, I want to stay with you. Actually, the therapist is obligated to say, if it ain't a good fit, I'm gonna help you find someone else. That's part of the obligation ethically. But finding those people out in the community that can be of help and support, and then finding those internalized supports and resources, self-talk, right? How you're sleeping, kind of tuning into who you are and what's going on, I think are the resources that we should be deeply concerned about.
So man, thank you so much for sharing stuff, man. Thank you for your transparency.
Absolutely,
and thank you for doing it. And we're gonna do more episodes, so I need you guys to do me a big favor. I need you to go to the website, scan the QR code, and make sure you answer the questions, because we wanna know if something like this, is this something we need to do all the time? So I really wanna know. And before we leave, I wanna read something that you posted the other day that I read it and I'm like, it just puts in perspective the life that we have. So you wrote it.
Time in life is a gift, and no matter what you're going through, it's important to lean into the beauty of life, to enjoy every day as best you can, to love the people that love you and pray for the ones that don't. We are all just vapors in the wind on this planet, so yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Wow.
How I feel, brother.
Ooh.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for doing it, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Pleasure to meet you, man. Pleasure to meet you.
You too.
Thank
all
you.
The best to you, your boys, your wife.
Yeah. Thank you to the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council for making this all possible. Hey, y'all, love more and judge less. God bless.